he didn't have a job. Couldn't hold a job. God, I can't believe they found her body in the Demick's property.
Who is in St. Cloud?
Only I know people in St. Cloud, and he doesn't know where they live.
He didn't have a job. He couldn't hold a job. Isn't that funny the way Jennifer Soto's friend said that about Stephan Sterns? She's also going to call him a scumbag, and where she lives is only 1 minute away from where Stephan Sterns left Madeline Soto, out there on Old Hickory Tree Road. We've got a lot to talk about with more and more information coming out in the case of Stephan Sterns. I want to talk about 3 main things in this video. First off, the newly released body cam video that shows Jennifer Soto's sister and her dad, and I believe her nieces. It's from February 27th, 2024. Technically, it's right after midnight. It's right after they left Jen and Stephan's condo, just 10 minutes after, and they went on over there to Jennifer's sister's house, basically her hideout. We'll talk about that. The docket sent me the video. I also got the video myself and this new interview from police. So let's go over it all. Secondly, we're talking about this newly released audio interview with a friend of Jennifer Soto's that I've never heard before. I was skimming through all the documents as usual, comparing and contrasting the information we already have, and it's a lot of it, with what we're missing. I believed we were missing this. I don't remember hearing it. So it's Jennifer Soto's friend. She's going to call Stephan Sterns a scumbag. She's going to sound shocked, just surprised at how closely Madeline Soto was discovered and the name of the property where it was discovered and everything. I don't think I've heard this interview with Sylvania Vester before anywhere. That's why I requested it. Third, let's talk again about what we spoke of. Let's talk about what we just talked about in the previous video with Stephan Sterns being, quote, rehoused to medical, and what HRI really means. Does it mean heat-related illness like I thought? Or even the YouTuber The Docket had a great thought last night on his live covering these videos and everything. He interpreted it potentially as high-risk inmates, something I hadn't even thought of, which could be true. Either way, what are the implications of either interpretation and Sterns definitely being rehoused to medical? If you want to watch the body cam video with Jennifer's sister, her dad, it's everything. It's short, so I put it together with this new audio interview from Jennifer's friend, so they're all in like a 10-minute or so long video over there on my Patreon. The link is below if you don't want to watch all my commentary and see my hands flying all over the place. Okay, let's talk about Jennifer Soto's sister and dad's body cam video interview. I'm calling it Jen's Hideout. So remember in previous interviews, we did hear Jennifer Soto telling police she had been staying with her sister. She was trying to avoid the reactions people were giving her. I'm sure they were probably giving her the side eye from the beginning in this case, but especially after Stephan Sterns was arrested.
Where all have you looked for Maddie?
I haven't looked anywhere. I've stayed while we were at home, while we were allowed to be at home. I stayed at home just in case she would come back. For somebody to be home while she was back.
Okay.
And for now, since I haven't been able to go back home, I've been at my sister's house just hiding out. I don't want to be seen in public. I don't want anyone. I already had my own security gate. Like when I drove in there, they recognized me by my name, and when I told them my name and just the response, I wasn't prepared for just everyone to recognize me and know what's happening. This is huge. But I haven't. Back to your question, I haven't gone out looking for her because I don't know where to search, and the only place I thought of where to search would be Chico Creek behind her school because of the whole woods comment, but you guys have been doing that and I didn't want to get in the way of that.
Well, Jennifer spoke during one interview about coming back to her condo and the way the person there, the guard, or I think it was a woman, the way she reacted to Jennifer. Jennifer was like, oh, it's just too much for me. I don't know what the woman said. I don't know if she was overly sympathetic or just emotional or whatever. Jennifer said it was just too much for her to handle. Jennifer didn't want attention going outside, so she started staying at her sister's house. And now we get a closer up look at her sister's house. By the way, internet sleuths, the people in the Facebook groups, had already figured out where Jennifer was staying because they saw her white Nissan. It still had the red, tape on it, the evidence tape. It was parked in her sister's driveway. So people had already snapped photos of it long before we saw this body cam video. So now, in this newly released body cam video, it is February 27th, 2024. It starts at 12:47 a.m. It is literally only 10 minutes after the same officer, I saw his number on the body cam, up there. Same officer, he left Jennifer Soto's and Stephan Sterns' place. We went over that video in a lot of detail, trying to figure out what was being said, what Stephan was whispering, what Maddie had written on her text messages. We were trying to figure it all out. Well, he left there about 12:37 a.m. He was surprised himself, it sounded like, when Jennifer said, oh, your sister lives right over there. Well, let me go over there. It's literally 10 minutes later. It shows us that Jennifer's sister Stephanie truly does live only 10 minutes away. Only 10 minutes away from where Maddie was that night at the condo. She's there. You can tell she's a mom and everything. She was right there for Maddie.
How's it going?
So the officer arrives at Jennifer's sister's house, Stephanie's house, and in true investigative form, he's shining his light in all the vehicles. He sees Juan's van, he sees a car. He's doing his due diligence because sometimes, these missing children cases, sometimes you'd be surprised. The kids are just hiding somewhere in the house. They're in a car, they're wherever. By the time he gets to the door, he's shining the light and Stephanie can see it. She just has the screen door open. It must not be too cold in February at this point, like Sterns was saying. Oh, it's so cold. She has her door open so she can see the cop out there.
Are you sister?
Yes.
That's who you are. You guys look very similar.
Oh, yeah.
So, whose van is that out there?
It's my dad's.
What is that? Just like a little...
It's like his traveler van, but he could open it for you.
Okay.
Oh, it's open. You can just let it out.
So when did you guys last hear from her?
And he's asking, are you sister? I'm assuming because you guys look very similar. And Stephanie does look very similar to Jennifer. So now I finally know who Stephanie is. I remember her earlier in the office, her mom's office. She's back there talking with her mom and different people, and she does look very similar to Jennifer. I mixed up Stephanie with whomever that girl was who went to Peace Church and was out there talking with the officer about surveillance video and stuff, and she's been on the news. I'll try and find that snippet. Maybe I can find her name. I assumed that was Stephanie. I guess Jennifer has at least 2 sisters, I'm thinking. So maybe Jennifer has a bunch of sisters. So Stephanie does laugh a little bit and smiles at the compliment, saying, oh, you look like your sister. She opens the screen door for him, and he's already like, whose van is out there? I'm glad he wanted to keep it outside a little bit at first, because that's the only body cam and only audio we can get. Thank God Jennifer's friend, too, she must have stayed outside. You know, which is weird, though, because some of these interviews we've gotten, we do get the audio from inside. Like the woman that shall not be named, whom Sterns was dating at Disney. I'm remembering all these interviews took place inside. I honestly don't know. I get why they can't, I guess, show us the visuals of a person's inside of their home. Makes sense, reasonable expectation of privacy, but why not the audio? We've gotten the audio on some, but not others. Anyway, he's asking whose van that was, and Stephanie says, it's my dad, and she's gesturing to Juan Soto, who is inside the house. Now, I'm feeling bad for these people. They are obviously distraught, and just like, where could Maddie be? It is almost 1 a.m. in the morning, and can you imagine learning, oh, my 13-year-old niece, or, you know, my 13-year-old granddaughter in Juan's case, she's been missing and never showed up at school since 8 a.m. and now it's nearly 1 in the morning. And you can tell he's an older man, you know. Stephanie says it's like his traveler van, but he could open it for you, and Juan is rising up slowly to walk towards them. You know, they've got to be beside themselves with worry. And Juan, you know, he seems like an open book. He's like, look, you can open the van, just slide it out. And he's grunting as he's making his way over the threshold. You know, I'm sure this man is, I don't know how old he is, but, you know, getting up there.
Are you sister?
Yes.
I assume you are. You guys look very similar.
Oh, yeah.
So, whose van is that out there?
It's my dad's.
What is that? Just like a little...
It's like his traveler van, but he could open it for you.
Okay.
Oh, it's open. You can just slide it out.
So when did you guys last hear from her?
I dropped her off at her house last night. It was her birthday party at my mom's house, and I dropped her off 8:30ish.
Yeah.
I saw her on Saturday night. She was hanging out with you.
No recent arguments with family members or friends, or
As far as I know,
no boyfriends or anything like that.
I don't think so, no.
The officer asks, when did you guys last hear from her? Now you can hear Stephanie say, I dropped her off at her house last night. Was her birthday party at my mom's house, and I dropped her off around 8:30ish.
I dropped her off at her house last night. It was her birthday party at my mom's house, and I dropped her off 8:30ish.
Yeah.
So we've heard that before once we finally started getting more evidence to this case. Stephanie dropped off her niece, Maddie, right there after her birthday party, 8:30ish. Supposedly Stephan wasn't even there yet. We still don't know what time he got there because Jen and Stephan just have, you know, brain fog when it comes to when did Stephan arrive. It's just this big question.
Sunday she had her birthday party, right? Sunday she had her birthday party. Okay, what time was that party at? It started at 3 o'clock. Okay, from 3 to what time? I'm not sure. I wasn't there. I was at work. Oh, okay, you weren't there. But I know my sister home around 8:30. Was Stephan here at that time? I'm not sure if he was here at the time, but I think he got here a little bit after. And he was like, okay, she was already doing what she was supposed to. She had taken her nighttime meds, and she was getting ready for bed, like taking a shower. She'd take showers at night.
I don't know when he arrived. At first, Jennifer said, oh, I think Stephan got there 10 minutes later. And then in her derivative immunity interview from April 18th, 2024, she changes her tune and says, well, I don't know when he arrived. Now you can hear Juan in the background answering the cop. He says, I saw her on Saturday night.
I saw her on Saturday night. She was hanging out with you.
No recent arguments with family members or friends, or
As far as I know,
no boyfriends or anything like that.
I don't think so, no.
He says, I saw her on Saturday night. So that lines up with Juan spending time with Maddie on Saturday. Because remember when his ex-wife, Yolanda Zambrano, Maddie's grandma, said Maddie was so upset she didn't want to go home on Saturday. We don't know what was happening on Saturday. We still don't have all those details. We know Stephan was so upset he needed anxiety meds. Well, Yolanda did say she enlisted the help of her ex-husband to, go spend time with Maddie. I seem to remember he took her to McDonald's or something, or what have you. So it lines up with Juan saying he saw Maddie last Saturday night. Juan must not have gone to the birthday party, I'm assuming. The officer is asking no recent arguments with family members or friends, and you can hear Juan say no. I was wondering right there, why didn't Juan talk about the reason he had to pick up Maddie that Saturday? Because she was so upset. Didn't want to go home, but did he know all this? Did he even know Maddie had been crying and telling her grandma, I don't want to go home? Or did Yolanda just say, Juan, can you just pick up Maddie and spend time with her? I don't know why he didn't get into that. I think a lot of people, maybe when it's just a missing case and they're thinking, oh, maybe this is just, a misunderstanding. Maybe Maddie went over some friend's house and spent the night and we don't know about it and she'll be back tomorrow. If that's in that line of thinking, which of course I'm sure they didn't think Maddie had lost her life, maybe people are of the mindset where they're not ready to open up to cops and say, yeah, Maddie was really upset on Saturday night. So much so she didn't even want to go home. And I don't know why he didn't get into that. Because to me, when you have a missing child, every detail helps. It's like all bets are off. Look, I'm telling you, all my family drama, so we can find Maddie. Stephanie says, not as far as I know, no. So Stephanie, I don't think she knew anything had happened. The officer is asking, any boyfriends, anything like that? Stephanie's like, I don't think so, no. And a little laugh. It's not kind of like a Jennifer laugh. To me, it's more like a nervous laugh. Jennifer was laughing inappropriately, in my opinion, several times throughout many of these interviews I've listened to, kind of like in a flirty way. To be the mother of a missing child, it seemed inappropriate. Just 10 minutes earlier, when this same officer was at Jen's condo and they're looking through the phone and it's like, oh yeah, she just uses it for gaming. That's all she uses it for, gaming stuff. Stephan is trying to say, oh, don't look too deeply into her phone, And Jennifer goes, I don't know, it's just inappropriate in that way.
I don't see anything in there.
So yeah, mostly it's stuff for gaming and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all she uses it for.
Yeah.
But you will see me redacting the minors' faces in this video. And then Juan goes ahead, he opens his van door so the officer can peer inside. And the officer says, oh, that's a nice setup.
Oh, that's a nice setup.
Was there any updates, do you know?
No, not that I know. Orange County is the one working everything, so I don't know what all they're doing. They just sent us out to the house to see if she maybe walked back, came back, or what's going on. So she said that you guys live close by, so I figured I'd come out here and talk with you guys, check the house, if you guys are okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
So if you guys want to show me a little tour.
So indeed, it looks nice and neat. I remember when Maddie's elderly next door neighbors talked about Juan working on his van or something. I don't know if he did like a van life type of trip or tour or what, but it is a nice traveler's van. Then Stephanie asks a question. Is there any updates? Do you know? This is a question you don't often hear Stephan and Jennifer ask, if ever. I think I remember hearing them different times because some of the audio is hard to hear. I'm a very visual. I like to read lips. I love subtitles all over Netflix everywhere. So it's kind of hard when it's just like a black screen or whatever. You're just listening to the audio, especially during those transport interviews, surreptitiously recorded. But there are some times where I believe Jennifer did ask for an update, sometimes during those initial interviews, but it's not often. Kind of like the body cam we just watched, the kind that happened 10 minutes before this. When this officer walked up to the condo, it was Jennifer's roommate who answered the door. He was the one who had to ask, did Maddie come home? And Jennifer's just like, no. She didn't ask him, oh, why are you here? Did you get an update? Did you find her? It's not even that kind of energy at all from her. So anyway, this cop tells Stephanie Orange County is the one working on it. He's checking out the van, and then he says, show me a little tour. So he goes inside the house. So he's inside the house from 12:50 a.m. until 12:56 a.m. So we don't get to see or hear those interactions, unfortunately. I don't know if we ever will, when the court, maybe if there was something important to the case that was said inside the homes, maybe we'll see that during the trial, if he indeed takes all of this mess all the way to trial. Now, let's talk about Jennifer's friend's interview, who lives close to where Maddie was found, where Stephan dropped her off in those woods. Okay, she is a 59-year-old white female named Sylvania Vester, and cops got a tip that day, as you're going to hear them talk about. It was March 13th, 2024, and so at 9:09 a.m. they headed over. It's Detective Pennell and so I think it's Mark Morris or someone went with them. They responded to an address. I will keep her address hidden, but it's in the documents. It was on Hickory Tree Road. They wanted to go follow up on this tip. No wonder they had their suspicions. Not that Vester was involved in any way. That's not what I'm saying. I'm sure they just found it odd. Wait a minute, Jennifer's friend lives right here 1 minute away, 0.7 miles away, a 1 minute drive from where Stephan put Maddie's body. Is there any connection? How did he know to leave her there? So we previously heard Jennifer herself tell police she didn't know any ties that Stephan had to St. Cloud in any way, where he, dumped the body, stashed the body. Now, she did talk briefly about this friend she had out there somewhere near the area, and she talked a little bit about hiking previously with Maddie in that area of Lake Lizzie, but they all agree Stephan was not with them.
Who is in St. Cloud?
I know people in St. Cloud, and he doesn't know where they live.
Does he know those same people?
He's met them before and talked to them before when they've come over here.
Okay. Where do they live in St. Cloud?
Off of Old Canoe Creek Road. Do you want me to get you an address?
Sure.
Has he ever went with you to go see him?
No.
Never.
No. I've never even gone to her house like that to hang out. She always comes to my house. So they know each other, and she lives in St. Cloud, but we've never gone to St. Cloud together with her, to her house.
And how do you know her? She work with you?
Yeah, she's an old coworker from 14, 15 years ago.
From Disney?
No, we used to work at a pizzeria. That was when I was a lot younger.
Are you texting her?
Would you like me to call her or would you like to text?
No, I thought you were just going to pull it up. It's off Old Canoe Creek?
Yeah, I don't know her exact... I don't know the exact street or address or... I want to say it's... Actually, hold on. If I pull up a map... So she lives off of this road right here, Nolte Road in St. Cloud. Mm-hmm. Nolte? That's 182 right there. There's Old Canoe Creek, Nolte. She lives around there.
Would you be able to point it to me?
To which house? No.
Not the specific house, but like, is it in a neighborhood? Does she have her own land?
It is in a neighborhood. I don't remember where though. I don't know how far down. I have to drive down Nolte.
Are you familiar with Nolte?
No.
No.
No, I think I've only dropped her off at her house once.
You dropped Maddie off there?
No. My friend.
Oh, your friend. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not
sure. You want to text for the address?
Yeah, let me text.
Yeah. And what was her name?
Michelle
Michelle.
Mason. Masson.
2 S's?
Yeah. The thing is, I don't think Stephan would know where she lives, but...
No, I'm not saying that he did, but I'm just trying to see who you would know in St. Cloud.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only person. There might be somebody else that lives, like, closer to Harmony. But that's the only people I'd know.
What does it say?
Michelle Mason, right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Mm-hmm.
What part of Nolte was it on?
I'm not gonna look it up. That is... So,
Stephen's Plantation.
Stephen's Plantation. And it is gonna be... I don't know what neighborhood that is. But if you go on Burberry Place...
Okay. Yep, I know where it's at. Well, we're going to check, see how they're going on inside.
So no wonder the detectives felt compelled to go interview this woman. And I'm asking myself, as we listen to this interview in detail, it's also pretty short, but I'm asking, did Jennifer give Stephan any hints or tips about where to place Maddie? Did she know at all? Or had Stephan happened to have hiked there? Did Stephan hike there on his own at any time without Jennifer and Maddie? Is that how Stephan knew about this area? Remember, she who shall not be named, the Disney woman, she did speak a little bit about, I believe, hiking with Stephan. I don't remember the area. And she talked about another woman at work who hung out with Stephan, but she didn't really know if they went anywhere or did anything. So I'm wondering, was it a complete coincidence that Stephan just so happened to place Maddie only 0.7 miles away, like about a half a mile away, just a 1-minute drive away from Jennifer's friend's house? So let's start to listen. You will see they received a tip that morning and they explained to her, this is why we're here.
The time is 9:09. It is March 13th, 2024. We are myself, Detective Morris, Detective Pinnell, reference to case number 24001896. And we are going to be interviewing Sylvana, Sylvana Vester.
Sorry, I had to put some extra clothes on.
No, that's okay. That's good. I appreciate you talking to us. So, like I said, I'm the one that's investigating the death of Miss Maddie Soto. We received a tip this morning via our department, which led me out here saying you may or may not know the family or have somewhat of a history of the family.
I knew her a long time ago. She probably when she was like 8-ish.
And this is Maddie or
Maddie and Jen.
Okay.
And sometimes we would go hiking with her in Lake Lizzie. It wasn't so much me, but my partner. And
At the reserve over there?
Yeah, Lake Lizzie. Right. And I mean, everything seemed normal.
How long have you known Jen?
Audio.
I mean, maybe a year or two. I'm gonna say I don't. I wasn't the one who was primarily involved. I mean, I met Maddie, right? I met her, and she was a sweet kid. Do you want to go? I don't. Do you want to for the sun? Do you want to?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
My great. Yeah, there we go. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's hard to.
Yeah. It's like right in my face.
So maybe I'd say a year or two, and that's just off of memory. And then she hooked up with that guy.
Okay.
Stephan. And I, again, just trying to remember, we probably knew them maybe another 4 to 6 months. Well, we didn't like him.
You didn't like Stephan, or why not?
He was a scumbag.
Oh, yeah.
We knew. Not that he would do that.
Right.
Never. I never had that, But he didn't have a job. Couldn't hold a job.
And you can hear all the beautiful sounds of nature. Even looking at it on the map, you see the greenery and just so lush. It's not a real condensed space with a lot of people in it. So how did Stephan know about it? This woman, Vester, says, I knew her a long time ago. Maybe when she was like 8-ish. I hate when people just say she or just tell me the name of the person you're talking about. So even the detectives have to clear it up. Are you talking about you knew Jennifer or you knew Maddie? I'm assuming she's saying she knew Maddie when Maddie was around 8 years old. But it gets confusing. Time, I'm sure, is confusing. She did say we would go hiking at Lake Lizzie. It wasn't so much me, it was my partner. So Vester's partner knew Jennifer better, and they would go hiking, Jennifer and Maddie and this other woman. But Vester says everything seemed normal. She said she knew Jennifer and Maddie maybe a year or two. So only for a certain period of time. Maybe that's what she means. She only knew them when Maddie was around 8 or 9 in there, and her partner would hike with them more. Vester's partner knew Jennifer through a work colleague who knew Jennifer in high school. So I'm like, okay, I have to get this straight. Vester says she met Maddie. She was a sweet kid. And you hear Vester saying, do you want to go for the sun? So they must be repositioning somewhere. It sounds like they're still outside. You hear all these beautiful sounds of nature. Maybe they just moved out of the sun. And then Vester says about Jennifer, and then she hooked up with that guy, Stephan. So this is interesting. I'm trying to get a timeline here. Maddie was around 8 in 2019. So this kind of lines up. We know Stephan and Jen met earlier. They were together by 2019. I think they met maybe in 2017, around there. But Vester says, okay, she hooked up with that guy, and then maybe we knew them another 4 to 6 months. So as soon as it sounds like they were hanging out, at least her partner was hanging out every now and again, every blue moon maybe, Jen and Maddie would go hiking with Vester's partner. And they knew each other maybe a year or two. At least Vester did. Once Jennifer hooked up with Stephan, it was the death of so many things in her life. Just even meeting that man. It sounds like the relationship with these friends did not continue because they did not like Stephan. You can count the number of people who did not like him. You know how Jennifer says her mom didn't like him, her family didn't like him. Now we see these friends didn't like Stephan. So much so where it's like, we don't even want to be around him. We don't even want him at the birthday party. And it affected this relationship too. Vester says he's a scumbag. We knew. So they had that internal sense of like something's wrong with this guy. He's gross. He's a scumbag. But Vester corrects herself. She's like, not that we knew he would do that. So she didn't know, of course, all the details of what Stephan was doing to Maddie. But I guess maybe like a lot of people, she just got an icky feeling with him around. But this is when she says, he didn't have a job, couldn't hold a job. That cracks me up the way she says it.
He didn't have a job, couldn't hold a job. Was proud about painting these stupid little plastic soldiers.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I was just like, I resented that he got, I don't know how he stayed alive. You know, most of us have to work.
Right.
And I resented that. I resented it, right? So that he had the time to do that. But anyway, but I hardly ever talked to him. So like that was, you know, we were like.
Where did you meet Jen? And
my partner's colleague knew her in high school.
Okay.
Something like that. Like, was it Michelle knew Jen in high school? I guess they went to, But I didn't know Michelle that well either. This is all, you know.
Right.
Her friends. So I think so. Then they moved, I believe. I think they moved north, but I'm not sure. He found a job. So they left, and I thought. So then, Courtney tells me that they had to move back. I guess he lost his job. I don't know. I thought they had split up at that point. Honestly, I thought they had split up. And I know Courtney said at that point they were having some issues. And Courtney said to Jen, leave him. You know, you don't do that. Right? You don't usually interfere in somebody's business like that.
Right.
But he was pretty bad enough that she was like, leave him. Now, we didn't. So we hardly knew, you know, them once he entered their life.
Gotcha. Did they ever spend any time out here? Have they ever come here to visit?
Oh, she did come. Maddie came, not him. He never came here.
Okay.
We would never. I mean, I'm telling you, not like that guy. She came here a couple times because they would hike and sometimes just get a drink or something, and before they left or something like that. But I couldn't tell you how often. You know. So
did Jen come out here with Maddie too?
Yeah.
Okay. But Stephan never came out here.
No.
Not even sitting out in the car or anything like that.
No. Courtney didn't like him.
Did she let it known to Jen that she didn't like him?
I'm not sure at first.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. Right. I do know that once they were having issues, she told them.
She kind of let her.
Oh yeah.
Know her opinion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I don't know at first, you know, because it's not really something appropriate to usually say to somebody.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Exactly.
And I get it. She's like, he was so proud about painting these stupid little plastic soldiers. I get it. She's like, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, she says, I totally understand it. Not that there's anything wrong with anyone being artistic, having an artistic bend, you know, that's talent. There's talent in that. I think the problem with Stephan is he's just so gross. His whole behavior, persona, his actions, his alleged actions against Maddie, it's so gross that he just sounds like this layabout who was not a benefit in their lives. And so that's why I think, you know, of course she's reading into painting those stupid little things. He's so proud of that. I mean, it seems childish. But if it were anybody else, if it were any other person who's, you know, gainfully employed or helping people or, you know, painting the things, but being kind to everyone around them, I don't think we'd feel that way. Vester says, I resented that I don't know how he stayed alive. Most of us have to work. I resented that he had the time to do that. I see what she means. It's not like he was some millionaire. Like if Stephan was some millionaire and he, you know, chose to spend his time at home painting figurines and he actually helped his parents financially and emotionally in all kinds of ways and didn't take from them, you know, like taking from Jennifer and Maddie in the worst way, then it would be a different story. But Vester says, but I hardly ever talked to him. So she just knew, like, ugh. But she says, my partner's colleague knew Jennifer in high school. Now, Michelle, some woman named Michelle, knew Jennifer in high school, and I guess they went to and she trailed off. She starts talking about Stephan and Jennifer. She thought they moved north, but she wasn't sure. That must have been the time where Jen talks about where they moved down to Northport, but it was like a community over, the name escapes me right now, when they did that stint. Vester says, Sterns found a job and they left. But now Courtney must be Vester's partner. Courtney tells me that they had to move back. I guess he lost his job They had to move back. I thought they split up, she said. So here's another person who knew Stephan could not keep a steady employment. I mean, there's nothing wrong with working at Disney or working wherever, working on your own business, whatever. It sounds like Stephan just wasn't trying. Like he didn't have it in him perhaps to try to remain gainfully employed. And that's no dig about anyone having, mental health issues or depression that impacts their employment. With Stephan, we don't know if he was just making money in bad ways through CSAM or whatever, and that's how he was able to order all the figurines and could just sit around and, paint them and everything. So at that point, Jen and Stephan were having some issues. They split up. He lost his job down there. They moved back. Now at this point, Courtney even steps in. This is even maybe crossing a boundary, like Vester says, maybe this is kind of crossing a boundary. But Courtney said to Jennifer, leave him. Like he was pretty bad enough that she was like, leave him. Goodness, if only Jennifer had heeded that advice back in whenever she gave it to her. Maddie could have at least not suffered. Maddie likely would not have lost her life. It's sad. Vester says we hardly knew them once he entered their life. That's another red flag a lot of people know. Like all these red flags, Jennifer had to get feedback from so many people. Like if your family, all these different people just don't like your partner, you have to look at, are they right? Why don't they like him? It's not just one person. It's not like some jealous friend is like, oh, I'm jealous because you have a boyfriend and I don't. No, it's like her mom, her family. I don't know how her sisters felt. We know Yolanda didn't like him. Now we know this woman, Jennifer's friend, did not like him. Her partner, Courtney, really did not like him to the point where she's stepping over bounds and saying, look, Jennifer, just leave him. I don't know what Jennifer was telling Courtney that Stephan did, but it had to be bad enough for Courtney to be like, just leave him. A lot of times your girlfriends don't necessarily give you that advice. If they're truly your friends, they'll say, okay, well, he's a good man. Work on it. Maybe you guys can go to counseling, No, it was none of that. It was like, leave him. And unfortunately, Jennifer did not heed the advice. And it's sad that Vester says we hardly knew them once he entered their life. So if a man comes into your life, like Stephan came into the lives of Jennifer and Maddie, if he were a good man, their lives would have improved. He would have gotten to know all these friends and family. If he were a good man, there would have been no reason to pull away or alienate from your friends and family. He would have been an addition. He would have been a good addition to the family. Hey, meet my friends. Hey, meet my family. It would have been like, okay, now you're part of the family. Instead, she's saying, basically, we hardly even knew Maddie and Jennifer once he came into their lives. That's not a good thing. Now, Maddie would come visit out to this place. Stephan never came. Vester's like, he didn't come here. She reiterates, I'm telling you, we did not like that guy. We did not like that guy. She came here a couple of times because I guess Jennifer and Maddie would go out there and hike and, they'd stop in, get a drink. I don't know if all three of them were hiking. Courtney and Jennifer and Maddie, they'd get a drink and then they'd be on their way. So Jen and Maddie came out there, but did Stephan ever come out there? No. She is adamant. Vester says her partner Courtney did not like him, but the officer's asking, did she let it be known to Jennifer? And Vester says, I don't know at first, but once they were having issues, I guess her friend Courtney was like, no, whatever it was, I don't know the issues, but it was like, that's too much, basically. Leave him. So Vester reiterates Stephan would not come out here at all. The cops are asking, would he even sit in the car? She's like, no. Once they were having issues, Courtney let Jen know her opinion of Sterns. Now this is where it really surprised me. Vester said, I can't believe they found her body in the Demick's property, I think she says. I believe she says Demick's.
God, I can't believe they found her body in the Demick's property?
Yeah, that's why we're kind of concerned, especially knowing that you lived out here, that he might have been out here at some point, or...
Oh, no.
Yeah, he really has no ties to St. Cloud.
Yeah.
So...
But does that actually do anything? Like, does that push forward the investigation in any way?
I mean, it could. Any little bit helps, you know.
I mean, but no, he was never here.
Okay.
Never. Not that I know of. No.
When do you think the last time Jen was out here with Maddie?
Oh God. I don't know that it's got to be years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's years. I don't. Because like I said, she was probably 8 or 9. I'm gonna guess.
Okay.
You know, just to remember, but. Years? That I mean, that
Gotcha.
time.
Okay.
That would be.
Okay. No worries.
She's not. I mean, yeah. I didn't even know they were together.
Mm-hmm.
And I sure as heck didn't know that he was doing the things he did.
Right.
I can't believe that nobody did anything.
Mm-hmm. Well.
But yeah, I don't know what. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what he was doing around. I had no idea what brought him here. Because it's not his area. He never went hiking that I know of. Never anything. So, I don't know.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything else? No. All right. Did you tell me the truth the whole time? We just have to ask. Yeah, anytime we interview somebody, we have to ask. Okay.
As far as my memory can recall.
Gotcha.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
We haven't seen him,
Okay. All right, Miss Fester, thank you so much for your time. Sorry to bother you on a Wednesday.
On a whim.
So, all right, thank you so much, ma'am. I appreciate your time.
Now, how weird is this? This is Jennifer's friend. You know, back in the day, years ago, she knew Jen and Maddie. They would go hiking. You know, her partner knew them better, blah, blah, blah. In this house property. And then she goes, wait a minute, I can't believe they found, I can't see her. Of course, I'm imagining in my mind's eye. She's asking the cops, I can't believe they found her in the Demick's property. And you hear him go, I called it a pregnant pause. And that's why the cop is like, that's why we were concerned that he may have been out here. Investor's like, no, he hasn't been out to this house. But my question is, she knew, that's my neighbor. They found Maddie right over there. She even knew, obviously, the name of the person who owns the property. So that's where I'm like, okay, this is sketchy. This is shady. This doesn't seem coincidental. How coincidental would it be that Maddie was found very close to a property where Jennifer and Maddie knew those people? Did Jennifer give Sterns any hints? Like, oh, my friend lives out there. Or did he just so happen to be driving out there because it's not too far from Lake Lizzie? And let's describe a little bit, set the scene to give you an idea. From the documents, it says, on 2175 Old Hickory Tree Road, St. Cloud, they collected some evidence. They collected a rubber portion of a tire. So that's kind of far away the way I mapped it. Stephan must have drove more than 10 miles away from the location of the flat tire from near where Maddie's body was found. I think, he got his flat tire. He put Maddie. We're going to read how he put her. But 10 miles away, he drove on that tire. That's why it was so ripped up. He wanted to get as far away from the location as possible. Now, initially, on February 28th, this is when the day Stephan was arrested, Detective Mark Morris was called and he was asked to respond to the condo, execute the search warrant. He found the crazy stuff on Stephan's phone. And they also learned Stephan didn't drop Maddie off at school like he said. In fact, this is when they learned, his vehicle was seen driving south on Old Hickory Tree Road on Monday the 26th. So that's when Detective Mark Morris and Corporal Ilgen drove out to the area of Old Hickory Tree Road. They were canvassing. They were trying to find where could he have dumped her body. That's what the documents say. They searched several different places, but the results were negative. So this was Wednesday the 28th. They were in the area, they just didn't know. They even contacted Hickory Tree Elementary School for surveillance and saw the car matching Stephan's traveling south on Old Hickory Tree Road. Now this is when they finally found her. We know because of the hero, Thomas Karras. We've gone over his interview, that great witness who saw Stephan on the side of the road with that flat tire, looked him in his eye, thought he looked really sad. Because of that, they were able to narrow down, they were in maybe a football field, but they were able to narrow down the exact location. So the notes say on March 1st at 2:47 p.m. Maddie's body was found. This says Hickory Tree and Brick Canal. I could not find Brick Canal. There is another location associated exactly with where Maddie's body was reportedly found. It is 56 Hickory Tree Road, and that's where I mapped it to this woman's house. It's just like a little loop right there, only a 1-minute drive away. This is where Detective Morris says Captain Schott called me to let me know Madeline's body was possibly found. He was provided with the location, and they responded to that 5670 Hickory Tree Road, and they contacted all these different deputies, and they were brought to where the body was found. And based upon the clothing description seen on several videos, the body did appear to be that of Madeline. Now it says the lock to the farm was still locked and didn't appear to be tampered with. It says Stephan would have had to drop Madeline's body over the barbed wire fence or where the gate was, then move her body to the location where she was found. So this is how she got in that area, according to the officers, and then I mapped it over there. No wonder they followed up with Vester, because they learned, wait a minute, like he's going to say at the end of this interview, the officer is like, he really has no ties to St. Cloud. Now Vester's asking, does that do anything? Push the investigation? I think everyone wants to know, like, am I being helpful? The cops are like, yeah, every little bit of information helps. This is a pretty short interview. You don't want to make up stuff that you don't know. But I think it was pretty helpful because all she knew is, okay, this is how Jennifer met my partner. They did a few hikes or whatever out in this area, but Stephan never came out here. In fact, my partner hated Stephan so much, she was advising Jennifer to leave him. And I thought they broke up, and I haven't seen them in years. And that's about all she knew. But the officer is like, yeah, he has really no ties to St. Cloud, but she's saying, Vester's saying, he was never here, not that I know of. And the last time Jen was out there with Maddie, she said it's got to be years. Maddie was probably 8 or 9. And she's like, look, I didn't even know they were together. And she says, I can't believe that nobody did anything. That part is like, wow, I can't believe that nobody did anything. So I know she's probably presuming, like, why didn't anyone help Maddie? And I wonder if she's trying to say in a way, I can't believe Jennifer didn't do anything. That doesn't mean, of course, she's saying Jennifer knew what was happening, but it was like, with all these people just giving Stephan the side eye and not liking him, and even if they didn't, of course, know what he was doing to Maddie, they just knew he wasn't right. And they probably knew he's not good to be around Maddie, but Jennifer's a grown woman, she's going to do what she's going to do. And they're just saying, I have no idea what brought him here, because Vester's saying it's not his area. She's trying to say he's not athletic. She's saying he never went hiking, not that I know of. So it's a short interview, and they're trying to swear her out, saying, they're trying to swear her, like, did you tell the truth? And she's kind of laughing, like, as far as my memory can recall, but it hasn't been a long time. We haven't seen him. And Mark Morris says, sorry to bother you on a Wednesday. So that's it for that interview. And now let's talk about why Stephan may have been moved to that medical section in jail. So in my last video where I talked about Stephan and I went over the jailhouse stuff, and just look below at the podcast link, you'll find the whole playlist. Stephan Sterns was rehoused recently, January 18th, 2025. I thought HRI meant, in my Googling and trying to research all these prison acronyms or jail acronyms, I thought HRI, when I found it, I found heat-related illness. But the docket on YouTube, he went over it last night, and he was interpreting HRI to mean high-risk inmate, and I never thought of that. So I thought, okay, if it's that, what does it mean when a high-risk inmate is moved to a medical facility, or at least medical housing somewhere within the jail? So, well, Google says, what do you call it? The Google AI answer you get right there. A high-risk inmate being moved to a medical facility within a prison system typically means the inmate has a serious medical condition that requires specialized care, making them a high security risk due to their potential vulnerability and need for frequent medical attention. So that could necessitate or increase supervision or monitoring from the staff. So I thought, yeah, at first I thought, is he high risk just because of who he is, the national attention on this case, And did they move him to the medical facility just prior to his next hearings? But then part of me thought, no, when we went over the jail notes, we saw he was already in protective custody. It doesn't sound like he was around anyone. He's housed alone. He often rejects showers. He rejects rec time. So I don't think Stephan is in danger in that way, where they had to say, okay, let's move him even from protective custody to the medical facility. It feels like there's something going on and we don't know what it is. Inmate rehoused to medical, and it says CISO2 is needed for HRI inmate. So if anyone can figure out what that CISO2 is, please let me know. Comment below, because we have no idea. And is HRI because it's so hot in the prison from the heat and it's something going on with him, or was it just high risk inmate, and why did he need medical? That's what I'm wondering. I just hope he's able to get it together to stand trial and at least go to these hearings, or at least be convinced, like I always say, to just tell the truth. And if that truth means pleading guilty, like I always say, they got him dead to rights. If they have all this evidence, this CSAM evidence, at least with that case, just plead guilty. The Lord's will be done. 1 John 4:10. In this is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the propitiation, that is, the atoning sacrifice and the satisfying offering for our sins, fulfilling God's requirement for justice against sin and placating his wrath. Okay, so that's it. Fresh start, I feel like, a fresh new video, because I've gone through the previous stuff we've ordered and paid for. That's all done with. This is a fresh start. I paid for the body cam video, the newest one, allegedly speculating got it first, and then I went and paid for the cops for a raw copy. And going forward, I'm like, okay, I will pay the state's attorneys here. I just sent them a deal. Hopefully they understood it. Can I pay piecemeal and you guys review and release piecemeal information? We'll see what happens there. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for that, I'm still going through and remembering and comparing what we have, what we don't have, stuff I know I've never heard before. I don't remember hearing this interview anywhere, so I'm like, let me go over this next with this Vester woman. And then I want to go over some of the other interviews I do have, mostly audio. Some I've just never covered yet on this channel. I'm going through in detail now that we're more informed, as we know more about this case than we did like a year ago almost. It's almost a year old. Now that we know so much more, it helps inform my commentary in going through each video. So stay tuned, visit the link below, and I'll keep on going, not only with this case, but many others. But thank you so much for always watching and sticking with me. Take care.